Okay, this meeting of the Board of Education's Facilities Improvement and Oversight Committee, October 8th, 2005, is called to order. Good afternoon. Thanks for all for being here. Another full house. And before we get started, I'll just run through what we're going to talk about today. So we, of course, will start with public comment. Public comment is a little bit, we've got more people than we usually have. I did open up the waiting list. So anybody who's speaking, I just am begging you to please keep it to 2 minutes. Up to me, I'd let you talk forever. I can't. So just know that when I call the 2 minutes, it's not because I want to, it's because we have to make sure we get through everything that we need to cover today. So thank you very much in advance for helping me out with that one. So we'll do that. We're going to have presentations on where we're at with the Center for Black Student Excellence. We're going to talk about planning for athletics and the bond. Updates on the Ida B. Wells comprehensive plan, some information I'm excited to start digging into, which is our work orders and maintenance report and kind of the impact that has on our staff and our budgets, and the seismic report and next steps related to seismic. Then we'll have some status updates at the end where we talk about the bond audit recommendations, Powell Park in Cleveland, the RFP related to the Office of School Modernization, and the initiative of right sizing our schools. That's it. That's all.
How long is this?
Oh my God. So we'll start with some introductions. I'm Virginia LaForte, PPS Board of Directors and chair of my favorite committee. And do we want to go around the room real quick? I know that we do this every day, but I think it's nice for everybody to always see some new faces. Let's do it.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Eggers. I'm a principal with Holmes. We completed the seismic assessment and risk report.
And I'm Robert Joel. I'm a senior project manager down in OSM, working on the seismic program.
Joanna Evenson, Director of Project Management and Construction.
I'm Frank Levitt, the Senior Director of Operations.
Sarah Norman, Senior Director of Office of School Modernization.
John Franco, Senior Chief, Operations.
Eddie Wong, Board Chair.
Michelle Chase Miller, Board Director for Zone 4.
Michelle DePass, Board Vice Chair.
Deborah Kafori, Chief of Staff.
Sharon Tonkai, Chief Legal Officer.
Liz Large, a contracted member of the legal team.
All right. So we're going to start
Oh,
with
we have two other staff in the room.
oh, what? I'm so sorry. What? Here.
Roseanne Powell, Board Manager. Kara Bradshaw, Executive Assistant, Board Clerk.
I see some others.
Do you want all this?
No, it's. I think we're good. I'm not. I see some familiar faces over there. Okay, so let's start with public comments. So again, just please, when to state your name, spell your last name. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. We're very excited to hear what you have to say. And once you hear the alarm go off, which I think I'm going to do today, so that I actually hear it. Just go ahead and wrap up your comments. So let's see, timer, 2 minutes. Who do we have first?
We have Antonia Lawyer.
Oh, brutal. You first.
You
It's my first time doing this. I could not.
got it. Promise.
I'm assuming I sit here. Alright, cool, can stand up. It's Antonia. My last name is Lawler, Lawler. The 2 minutes didn't start, right?
No, I was actually going to now we'll start.
Okay. Hi, my name is Antonia Lawler, and my kid is slated to go to Beverly Cleary next year, whose buildings, as I'm sure you're aware, received the worst seismic rating, not only in the group of schools assessed, but on the whole scale. I'm out of my comfort zone up here, and I'm not an expert in all this, but I know it's important to be speaking to all of you. I can't be expected to knowingly put my kids in harm's way. I can't go from doing something as small as cutting her grapes in half so she doesn't choke, to sending her into a 100-year-old unreinforced masonry building with the highest seismic ratings where she will spend most of her waking hours. That gamble shouldn't be a price of education in your community. I know the board has a lot to consider, but I have 2 issues with the seismic priority formula. One, right sizing and enrollment. How is this being measured? Because I can tell you if the school was fixed, the numbers would be higher at BCS. I made a point of starting to reach out into my community, and what I encountered were parents that want to send their kids there but are too scared, parents that don't have a choice, and parents that weren't aware of the risk. 2, how can seismic carry such little weight? I noticed the facilities maintenance priority matrix and couldn't help but apply it to these buildings. By your standards, BCS received the highest rating, emergency, an immediate threat, but only if you wait for it to become one during an unpredicted earthquake, and by then, it'll be too late. Respectfully, and I truly believe this, we all love our kids, we want them to be safe, get a good education, and reap the benefits of being in our communities. I'm aware we can't base priority off of these emotions, no matter how strongly we feel them. These feelings are not unique, and feelings are not facts. But what is both unique and fact is that Beverly Cleary School has the worst seismic rating and should be one of the 2 schools addressed over the summer, and the seismic priority formula should be such that it accurately reflects that. I know it might make some uncomfortable that I'm speaking on behalf of Beverly Cleary, but you know what's worse? Holding your unresponsive kid in your arms while watching her lips turn blue and be thinking, is this it? And now looking back at that experience and thinking, well, at least she was in my arms and not under a pile of bricks. And with that, I say worst is first. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Megan Guerrero. Am I close? Yes. Okay.
Megan, I won't start until after you introduce yourself.
I think I gave you guys a copy.
We have it.
Megan Gaillero, my last name is Gaiero. I'm Megan Gaillero. I'm a teacher at Cesar Chavez and a parent of a student at James John. I'm here because I'm deeply concerned about all the buildings in PPS that will be dangerous when the earthquake hits. I'm also really grateful that the board has finally made seismic upgrades a priority, so thank you. There are 49 structures on PPS campuses rated 9 or higher in terms of risk. The $100 million allocated for seismic upgrades will cover only the 12 most dangerous buildings on that list. These buildings should absolutely be prioritized first. However, that leaves 37 very high-risk buildings with no repairs, not to mention 82 other building parts that are rated 7 or higher, so they're also high risk. So thousands of students and teachers still learning and working in buildings that are at a high risk of collapse, and it's unacceptable. PPS must follow through with its commitment to upgrade the most dangerous schools, but it also must provide a comprehensive district-wide seismic risk reduction plan with a clear plan for making all of the buildings safe, not just that 8 to 10 most dangerous. There also need to be actions that mitigate the risk for those of us in unsafe buildings while we're waiting for those repairs. So Chavez, for example, there's one section of our building that's rated 9.1, but the rest of the building is safer. And my thinking is maybe I could save my students' lives if I moved them out of that part of the building when I felt the earth start shaking. I don't know if that's even true. Maybe that isn't the best thing to do, but I feel that PPS should consult with structural engineers to create seismic risk mitigation plans for schools that are waiting for repairs. And maybe that means a site-specific plan that isn't just duck cover hold. Maybe it's if you're in this part of the building, move into a different part of the building. And that will be different for every building. Very quickly, I know that school closures are likely. I just wanted to ask that when you're considering closures, make sure to consolidate students and staff into the safest buildings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Cambier.
Good afternoon. My name is Sylvain Cambier, Cambier. I've got 2 children at Rose City Park Elementary, and first grader and a 4th grader. And every day I drop them off, and I look at the big brick wall, and I wonder if today is the day that it's going to crumble. And that's a scary feeling to have. Every building that our kids go to should have a safe structure for them. That should be a non-negotiable part, I think, of every program for every school. And it's literally the foundation of everything that happens in our schools. Unfortunately, of course, we have a long list of buildings that are at risk of crumbling in this seismic event, and that's why I'm here. I want safe buildings for our students, for our teachers, and for our whole neighborhood. Rose City Park Elementary, which was out of commission for some time and brought back online, has been a real asset to our community. So it's important to me. And I'm an architect. I've worked on a lot of seismic retrofits on large buildings. And I just want to share a little bit of my philosophy about the design process, because I feel like there's opportunities here for more than just seismic improvements. I think that design is an iterative process, and a good project becomes a great project when the solutions that are on the table are profoundly good ideas. And what I mean by profound is that they do more than just one thing. They solve more than just one problem. And that's hard to do. It takes a lot of skill. It takes time. It takes effort. But great projects need great problem solvers, and they need profound solutions. And it's not easy, but our kids are absolutely worth it. Every penny, every brilliant idea, every long day at work, totally worth it. So I'm here to say I want to see PPS and our whole community treat the seismic upgrades as an opportunity to make some profoundly great improvements to our schools on behalf of our students and their safety, of course, but also for the whole community that surrounds these schools. I realize
Sorry.
that was 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know, it goes by fast.
All right. I want to look forward to hearing more about how the seismic priority formula is going to work.
I think
I have a lot of questions.
we'll touch on that today. For sure, it's on my list. Thank you.
John Dwyer.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Dwyer, last name D-W-Y-E-R. And I'm here representing Safe Structures PPS. I'm also a parent of 2 kids at a high-risk PPS school. I'm here to talk about the seismic prioritization formula in tonight's materials. Even labeled as a sample, which we'll see, this framework has serious problems. The formula allocates only 35% weight to actual seismic risk as determined by structural engineers. That means that 65% of the decision on what schools to fix has nothing to do with whether the building will collapse in an earthquake. This contradicts Board Resolution 7109, passed unanimously last spring, which established, and I quote, "The first and highest use of funds available to address critical repairs and improvements at middle and elementary schools is to mitigate the seismic deficiencies at the 8 to 10 schools assessed to pose the greatest risk of injury or death in a significant seismic event." I'm also concerned that the variables that go into this formula will not be weighted appropriately. When seismic risk scores are tightly clustered between 9.2 to 9.9, but subjective factors are spread across a 1 through 5 scale, categories like grade level and right sizing will determine priorities instead of actual safety needs. PPS has historically struggled to prioritize the highest risk elementary and middle schools for seismic work. The framing for this formula continues that troubling pattern. To Dr. Armstrong and the Office of School Modernization, please ensure that the final formula prioritizes true seismic risk. After a major earthquake, we should know we used our limited resources optimally to reduce casualties. To the Facilities Committee, please ask tough questions and hold PPS accountable to Resolution 7109. The bond passed in part because voters trusted funds would go to seismic safety based on actual risk. My kids and thousands of others are depending on you to get this right. Thank you.
Thank you. Right on the nose.
Kathy Greathouse.
I am Dr. Effie Greathouse, a PPS parent with Safe Indoor Air for Oregon Schools. I want to share how ecstatic I am about the progress on air quality and HVAC issues under Dr. Armstrong's leadership, with her emphasis on community collaboration, safe buildings, and her initiative to find savings in the high schools. I want to thank the Office of Modernization staff for finding savings. Every 10 million saved is potentially another elementary school or middle school getting a desperately needed HVAC overhaul. I really want to thank the new facilities and operations folks who are in new roles and are listening to teachers and parents asking for creative solutions to the air quality hazard we face every fall and spring with climate change driven heat waves. I was elated that this new team under this new leadership took bold action and got temporary cooling equipment into 15 schools. I, along with other air quality parents and teachers, are here to ask for 3 specific next steps to building on this momentum. The first ask is for our school board members here to step up further too by making HVAC issues a standing every other month agenda item. Here's why we need this. Like Dr. Armstrong has explained, she and staff need time to prepare materials. Standing agenda item allows them to prepare effectively. And every other month, focus on HVAC issues would also further Dr. Armstrong's priority to collaborate on solutions to one of the biggest reasons our teachers went on a courageous and historic strike. This is the venue where we can best bring the district's ventilation team, board members, modernization staff, leadership, parents, and educators together to work in partnership to find the best solutions.
Hillary Brown.
My name is Hillary Brown, B-R-O-W-N. I have been teaching physics at IDB Wells for over 10 years. My 2 children attend PPS schools. It is great to see this leadership take an action-oriented approach in terms of air quality and temperature. The second ask we have is to work together to improve our temporary cooling measures. So at IDB Wells, Cleveland, and Jefferson, we have to survive in these old high school buildings for several more years, and the heat waves are getting worse and worse for us. We're talking about like regularly 85 to 90 degrees in many of our classrooms, and we also need solutions for our feeder schools. So I'd like to share what worked and what didn't work with the cooling equipment that was brought into IDB Wells. At Wells, the cafeteria equipment worked very well. It was a place that some of our students during lunchtime could access for relief, but only during the lunch period. So 35 minutes for the whole day. An area in need of improvement is that the swamp coolers provided were never hooked up to a water source, which is what they require to function. So rather than cooling the inside air through evaporation, they were just giant fans blowing hot air down the hallways. I was told they were not hooked up properly due to humidity concerns, but we don't have sufficient humidity data at our schools to assess what a fully functioning swamp cooler will do. This is a key example of where in-room air quality sensors would help us make better decisions. Many of the worst classrooms are on our 2nd and 3rd floors, yet there is a blanket ban on leaving windows in these rooms open overnight. I think we got 2 days this fall where they allowed us to keep our windows open, and the janitors came through and closed them anyway. At Wells, part of the original design for natural ventilation are high ceiling windows that move hot rising air out of the room. But over the years, our custodial staff has removed the poles that we need to open those because they didn't want us opening them. And in my classroom, they've removed the latches completely, so they're bolted shut. We're lucky here in Portland that we have daytime temperatures that are hot. We still have cool nights. Can we get more creative with policies on windows so that the fans can move truly cool night air out of the building?
Thank you.
Our next person is virtual Emily Davidson.
Hi, Emily Davidson, Davidson. I am a parent at Jason Lee Elementary, and I'm going to speak on, again, what worked and what didn't with the cooling system, the cooling measures at Jason Lee during the September heat waves. The cooling system was placed in the cafeteria, and the big fans were placed in the hallways. The result is that the classrooms only got a little bit of that cool air from the cafeteria or none at all, as is the case with our youngest kids in SPED kindergarten and Head Start programs, which were at the end of the hallways. So the cooling measures were maybe enough to keep school open by the district's current heat plan, but with classrooms still in the mid 70s, they were not enough to make a safe and certainly not an effective learning environment. And I am referring to the days where the high temperatures outside were only in the 80s and low 90s, so that would not be technically a heat wave time. Overnight, the buildings can't cool off because the security policy, again, is to also leave the windows locked. And this leaves cooling the building up to an old HVAC system at Lee that is left running overnight, which does not affect the building temperature at all because it has such a low ventilation rate. Over half of our classrooms get less than 2 air changes per hour. So that is some of our experience at Jason Lee and Wells. And I also want to share with you that Safe Indoor Air for Oregon Schools has surveyed teachers at the other 13 schools that got the cooling equipment in September. Safest will summarize and share more of that feedback the teachers provided, but I will share one item that came out of this feedback. 2 years ago, there was another much smaller test done with portable air conditioners inside classrooms at Wells. The specific types of units that were chosen by the district actually emitted heat while it was cooling the classroom, canceling each other out, and they were also obstructive to students. The conclusion the district made from that test was that portable air conditioners are not effective or workable. However, teacher feedback in this survey suggests that setting up different kinds of portable ACs in different ways than was done in Wells can be effective in improving temperatures in PPS classrooms. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name's Katie Price.
Hi, thanks. My name's Katie Price, and that's Price. I'm here representing a school that did not get the temporary cooling equipment. I'm a parent at Odyssey K-8, where my daughter and her classmates spent those already overwhelming first days of kindergarten, overheating and exhausted amidst the heat wave. The 15 schools chosen included schools that regularly get into the 90s during heat waves, so we're glad that a modest trial like this included those hottest schools, because 90 degrees is extremely dangerous to the school staff and students. But mid to high 80s for days on end at the rest of our schools lacking modern HVAC is also dangerous and makes it nearly impossible for our students to learn. So I will wrap up our second ask. Let's also build on these new measures by including more schools in trials of new approaches to mitigating heat. And I will also make our third ask. The new bond webpage on the PPS website is another great example of this leadership's new commitment to better communication. I think the page is well organized and inviting and makes navigating to most modernization topics much easier. But it's also an example where this HVAC issue that our teachers went on strike over is still getting ignored. Why is there no navigation button on there for HVAC? There's a button for roofs, seismic, lead paint, and lots of other topics, but there's no button for HVAC. And if you do manage to dig around and find the HVAC mechanical page, there's actually very little actual content on that page, and the updates are still a year out of date. This is a holdover from how previous leadership treated this issue as a low priority. And so we're really looking forward to this new leadership showing that HVAC's now a top priority by giving it that same equal visibility and timely updates and in-depth information that we see being put together on these other modernization topics. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Wow, thanks to everyone for keeping that tight. I really appreciate it. Is that everyone?
With everyone on the list.
Okay.
We did have one person who doesn't need a list.
And they're here? That's fine. Let's do it.
Elijah Frost. Sorry, I can't. Sorry, just-
All good. I'll keep this really short. Elijah Probst, for the record, P-R-O-B as in boy, S-T. You can clearly tell that a lot of the parents, it keeps us up at night. The seismic issues. My kid's going to be 3 in November. We live across the street from Buck Bend. It's a brick building. So yeah, just taking off some time for work to just come share that it keeps us up at night. Even those of us that have kids that aren't even in PPS schools yet, we really want to send them to PPS schools. The schools are beautiful. The bricks are beautiful. We just want them reinforced. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, so that concludes our public comment. So our first topic today is an update on the Center for Black Student Excellence. Dr. Franco, would you like to introduce this topic?
I would, thank you. And so here are kind of the big ticket pieces that we're going to be talking about today. As you can see, we have a number of staff here who are going to help with the presentations. That includes the Center for Black Student Excellence. We'll have athletics updates, IDB Wells budget update. We'll talk a little bit about kind of a status check in terms of work orders and maintenance impact. And then we'll talk about seismic. And then, as Director LaForte mentioned, we do have some verbal updates that we'll give. Okay, so we will go ahead and start with the Center for Black Student Excellence, and we have Liz Large and Joanna Evanson who are going to lead us in this topic.
Alrighty. So since the board vote on September 16th, the team's been completing a number of the due diligence activities. These are the standard commercial real estate due diligence activities, kind of our phase 1 portion. With that, we have the Alta survey complete. That's boundaries, easements, rights of way, physical improvements, just the building's physical conditions. And we didn't find any material issues wrong in that report. The second report was the phase 1 environmental study. And that one looks at groundwater, any environmental concerns, interior and exterior to the building. And again, there were no material issues with that report. I'll let Liz talk about the next couple.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. We are in the process of reviewing the draft building report, so it is not in final. That is a thorough evaluation of the physical attributes of the building, its structural elements, major systems. We are really working through understanding that analysis. There's, I'm giving you an example. These are not normally the reports we would give this, in an interim place, but we understand the importance of updating on where we are. So one example we're looking at is the refrigerant in the HVAC system. And there's a question about whether it's obsolete, that if it is, and we don't know that yet, then what would be the alternatives? So that's an example of the kinds of things we're working through. So when we come back in November, we'll be able to provide the final report with the conclusions and responses and analysis that goes with that. The title reports have been reviewed by our outside counsel, and I have walked through with them the exceptions to title removed, and we're seeing nothing that is surprising or unusual. I started taking notes at NBD, no big deal, which was the phrase that was used. The next item is the Eco Commons LLC, which is somewhat of a unique attribute to this building. There's an LLC that was formed with two purposes. It is responsible for the maintenance of the courtyard and holds the sublease to the 35 parking spaces at the church nearby. If the transaction is concluded, PPS will have a 70% interest in that LLC. It's a pretty formal structure for what it actually does. There's also, whether that is in negotiation with the 30% owner, another way to do that. We will figure that out. I think it goes in the no big deal category. The existing structure could work. We could negotiate with them for a different structure, but the same obligations and rights would flow through, even if that's not the legal entity we use to do it. So, again, I think there's just not a lot of there, even though it's slightly unusual. The last piece we want to update you on, I had many questions about this in September. We are en route to building and presenting to you in November, and what I would consider a pro forma, proposed uses of the estimated cost to do that. Where we are right now is a look at the point in time data of the current cost to operate the building with, as reported to us through the due diligence process. We sort of accelerated today to January 1 and said, let's just see, what is that number? What's a rough order of magnitude of that number with tenants who will be there, who are there now, who will be there January 1, and the current data. And that number net is about $150,000 to operate, cost net of revenue. That is not the final answer to the question of what will it cost to operate the CVSE at that building. But as that came up a lot, we wanted to give you that interim update of how that breaks down. Those numbers that we are using are being verified by the property management company. or for the current owner. And again, all of the most important part is that is married with the program and footprint of that building and who's where and what the revenues are going forward. We will bring that to you in November. I think that's where we are in terms of the due diligence update as of today. It's very, the real estate due diligence has a lot of survey reports and other reports and very important legal rights, but also very technical, so we haven't done. Do you want to take the next?
Sure.
Juliana?
Yeah, so moving forward, what are the next steps? You know, we have items that we're going to bring forward for the November meeting. We'll follow up on the full analysis of the reports we've gotten to date. And then kind of marry those together with that feasibility programming study to give you the space design, parking, operating plan, and that lease property management strategy. And yeah, once we have all that together, then we can provide you with those materials for your review prior to that full board meeting vote to decide if we move forward with the purchase of the building.
Questions?
I have a couple. I wanted to ask if it's possible that, it looks like the two documents that are complete, the environmental study and the building assessment report. Are those things that we can go ahead and share publicly?
The building assessment report is still in draft and not yet final, but when it is final, that available. The Alta survey and the environmental, I mean, the feasibility is how many pages? It's 9894 or something. It's, we've seen a lot of them.
That's something we can share.
Can share, I think we can show the face. I want to go back and look at the, I'm not recalling in the PSA any permission is doing that. Let me just verify that they respond.
And I think one of the notes I made, I think it sounds like it would probably be addressed under next steps. So right now, you mentioned the right of way. I remember you saying something about that space that runs in between the two buildings. The city has some sort of.
The city has a right of way.
Yeah.
That has been a known factor.
Right.
From the get-go, yeah.
I didn't expect so like you
no
had
red
that figured out by
flags.
today.
No red flags on it.
Right.
It is what it is.
Okay. And then can you tell me one more time, you said something about the LLC for the parking with the church back there?
So the church owns the parking.
Right.
It has leased it to Eco Commons LLC.
I was wondering about
So
that.
the LLC is the leaseholder to the parking. It runs through June 27, if I'm recalling correctly.
Okay. So right now, we would have it through June of 2027, that would pass through during the purchase, and then we would renegotiate.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And then I know you're working on the operations costs. It sounded like I'd made a note about rental income. When will we see that? But it sounds like you're gonna incorporate that into when you share out the operating costs.
Right, I think that'll be a better look
Same
forward as
conversation.
opposed to point in time, but that number I gave you includes the tenant rosters. We have it today, accelerated to January 1.
Great. Those are my questions. Anyone?
No, it's great to get an update.
Yes.
I can tell you that the community is very concerned about that we're nitpicking on parking. I hope, and the community hopes that does not hold up forward progress. If we're concerned about the number of parking spaces, I know that the New Seasons across the street has agreements with other community groups. So if there's overflow, but I would hope that parking isn't an issue.
I can't imagine.
I live in a neighborhood, so
Yeah.
I'd say parking's tight everywhere in Portland, but it's maybe less tight on that street.
It's just nice to have like a plan and make it part of the planning process, not necessarily an obstacle. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Knowing that there really is no parking.
And that's true all over Portland, but there actually is gonna be parking here, and it hasn't presented an issue for either the church or the building tenants currently that are in
Right,
there.
I think it has more to do with students and families coming, so I'm just asking about it, because I'm hoping that we have a plan.
That is part of the anticipated update in November.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Okay, athletics. And Marshall unfortunately couldn't be here today. couldn't make it today. So Joanna is ready to fill in and talk a little bit about some upcoming work. I know you want a little bit more detail. We shared at the last FIU meeting, and so we'll talk a little bit about
So at the last meeting, we shared kind of a schedule, workflow overview of the multiple, about 9 projects that are listed in the bond for athletics. So those projects align with the high priority improvements in the PPS long range facility plan. I'm just reading here, but those include the athletic hubs at Marshall and Jackson and multi-purpose fields and field lighting. High school improvements are for Grant, Roosevelt, and Franklin, and include seating and grandstand work, baseball and softball fields, and field lighting. And then our high priority middle school improvements include multi-purpose fields, tracks, and gym spaces. It's kind of the whole update I have, but if you have questions, I can try to field them.
If maybe I was hoping for something just a little more detailed, because I know that some of these have hitting cages as well. For Grant, there's been talk about that, fence, ticketing, like really like kind of like getting the nuts and bolts of like what those projects would look like. I would love it, maybe if next round we could just even get more detail.
Yeah, I don't think so. We haven't kind of attacked
We're not there yet.
granularity
We're not
for
there
each
yet.
of those projects.
Yeah, we're definitely not there yet for the athletics. We are in the process of still planning and getting all of our land use permitting and, in place while we do our procurement for our designers and engineers, and then we can get a lot more granular when it comes to the athletic projects, and we're happy to present that once we're there.
For field lighting at Grant, I think, is this part of where we're gonna have the update, or is that coming later? I know the presentation changed a little bit.
I vote no.
What questions you?
So I heard that the lights, I know we were targeting December 1st, but I heard that Moscow can't actually even get the lights there until January 1st. So can you tell us kind of where we're at with city power? And still getting a lot of questions.
Yeah, I've guessed. So, yes, Moscow cannot get the lights there by then. It's part of their manufacturing time. And their manufacturing is also based on what kind of power Pacific Power they can deliver to the property. So we did meet out there last week, and PPNL let us know what kind of power they want or can provide. Musco is designing off of that and should have a submittal to me at the end of this week, first of next week, and then they can go in production once we approve that. So that's how we get to that January date. In the meantime, finishing design. We'll go into permitting from there. So obviously December 1st isn't the date. We're gonna say March, early March, which aligns with our students, right? So we have fall sports on the field now, and we have spring sports that start in March. So to do that construction portion while no one is occupying the field is really the safest thing for our students anyway. And so that's good.
It sounds like we've just moved from December 1st to March now.
That is correct.
That's a pretty big, deviation. It's like a third of a year.
It's safety though, I think.
Yeah,
that's really
I can talk. It's in terms of the track season, they start in February. So if we can get the lights in January, is there really a need to wait until March?
We can get the lights delivered potentially in January. That's the earliest they said they could do was January. That also needs to still align with our city permitting. We're talking with the city. As soon as we have alignment we have the submittals, as soon as we're ready to go, we're going to let the city know that we have this coming package to them and see if we can help them through their permitting process as well. So in coordination with the city, right, we're going to try and tighten it up. To be realistic, I just want to say March. Also, once we get the lights, then we have to stand them, then we have to pour concrete, we have to stand them, so all these things. And then wire it back and then tie in with the new PPL service.
So you have to do all the underground trenching to every single light pole, you have to bring the new service in, then you have to control and program,
This is where some of my, and we'll move on, I just wanna say, this is definitely where some of my frustration lies. With timelines that, you know, we get timelines from PPS, and then we start working against them, and then when they're off by 4 months, you know, it's really difficult to keep going back to the community when those things happen. So I'm just moving forward for the committee. We're good knowing the real deadline. I'm sort of like, don't necessarily, you know, want anybody to feel like they have to tell us what they think we want to hear. Like, just tell us what you really think it's going to be. But for this particular project, it's going to be, you know, almost a year after the land use was approved. So I know, you know, I'm a little frustrated, and but I know we're getting there, which I'm really happy about. But we've got to get there before track starts. Like, that is a non-negotiable, you guys. We've got to, like, whatever we can do to make that happen. You know, we were cutting meats, like, we canceled the ends of meats last year because we didn't have lighting. So I'm just begging anything that we can do to, like, really to make sure that we hit this deadline this time, because I'm telling you, I'm gonna hear about this the second I walk out of the room.
Yeah,
And,
and I just kind of wanted to just, again, that it's not the date we've talked about today, so right now we're delaying that as soon as we can. And if we go way back to when we first talked about grant lights, it was a 10 to 12 month process from the beginning of land use. Land use actually, originally we projected about 7 months in land use, we were 10 months in land use. So we do have a push.
and that's what I was gonna say, is that, you know, we're coming to you with the best laid plan that we have, and there's a lot of outside factors that feed into that timeline. So I assure you that what we're trying to present to the committee and to the community is the most accurate information we have at that snapshot in time. But these outside entities that we have to work with on a daily basis constantly change those timelines, and we bring that to light as soon as it is available.
I appreciate that, and I remember Tom saying that December was an ambitious timeline and contingent upon everything going right, which is like, when does everything go right? So I appreciate the update.
I just also want to say, like, we're not trying to blame our city partners. They have a lot of the same constraints that we have too, and so
yes,
we are all trying to work together to move these things forward. They are a process.
I wanted to just thank you for the work and say that I've done a lighting project at Irving Park. I did the trail lighting and the park lighting as a construction manager for the Parks Bureau. And I learned early on in that career not to ever say a date, because invariably it doesn't matter if you're working in Class A office space or a park, and there's multiple dependencies. I mean, for the Irving Park one, we had a neighbor buy a house during the project, and so we just started the whole community engagement process again. I just want to say I appreciate that. I understand what you're going through, and I'd like, the whole committee doesn't feel like this is like this. The whole committee might not be frustrated. I want you to do I know you're doing the best you can to get the timelines of the permitting. The city of Portland, who's my employer, is notoriously 18 months for permitting, or longer, depending on the size of and the type of development. So I trust that you're doing your best. You're not trying to hold the project up, and I appreciate the work that you've put into it thus far.
as do I. No.
I know that.
I work very closely.
We worked really hard on this one.
It is frustrating if you've got a kid that's, you know, or a football player or a track player, I get that, and having worked for publicly funded agencies, nothing moves really quickly.
And we appreciate that the community comes to you with their concerns, right, and they're talking to you about it. And so I understand, and we are trying as fast and hard as we can.
Question. This question is not necessarily specific to the lights, but in the spirit of trying to save everyone time, because I know time is a resource that we don't have enough of. On the bond page, on the bond web page, you know, as mentioned by the previous public commenter, how appreciated it is to kind of have that update. Is it possible, and also, would it also save some time to also have the athletic page and just kind of show current updates, like, for example, like a blog style, for example, like, hey, there's this going on. And that way, like, the public doesn't have to keep waiting for like board meetings to get their latest updates. They can just see the website and have, in the spirit of trying to save time, I'm just.
No, I totally agree, and I think one of the things too, as we're working through, continually looking for opportunities to improve is dashboards on when we talk about those pieces. Imagine this, around a dashboard, we have constant updates on each project in terms of completion, also cost, that we can just pull up because we're doing those updates to the board, right, monthly, that we can just pull up and say, hey, this is where we're at. So I want you to know that is a huge priority for us, just from a transparency perspective, and then just from a tracking perspective, right? Just so we know, because to your point, efficiency-wise, that's a system piece that we're definitely looking for. And I do want to just echo the piece, like this, hopefully you're seeing there is a level of urgency in all these types of things. And I think to Sarah's point, there are interplays with outside entities that we just can't control. So there's no piece around this. December 1, that was an absolute goal to absolutely try and make. And it's always good to have those pieces. I think the reality is there's some things that came up which pushed it. But in the end, it was February, March. And so we understand, we know the push from the community. And so we're working to get that.
That dashboard would be helpful, and if we can drive people from the community there, that would be also helpful.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so Donna's here and to provide us an update on Wells.
Okay. And you can flip it to the main chart at any time. Thanks for this opportunity to talk about our budget once again. In our last report to the FIOC on September 16th, the IW Wells team reported a $5.6 million cost savings, and today that number remains unchanged. Since the last report to you, the team has received and reconciled 2 professional cost estimates, one from the CMGC and one from a third-party cost estimator. That reconciled estimate showed the project was $24.8 million over the hard cost target of $345 million. However, following a successful value engineering process, the amount of overage has been significantly reduced to approximately $4 million, so we are within 1.5% over the hard cost budget, which is considered well within industry standards at this current 100% schematic design phase, and within OSM's standard operating procedures to proceed into the next phase of design, which is design development. So we feel we have an attainable path to budget to move forward. The team remains focused on identifying further cost opportunities throughout design development and through ongoing collaboration with the CMGC on construction logistics planning. We identified many different opportunities during value engineering, which provided choices and helped us find an attainable path to budget. Some items that I would call true value engineering items. This is one of the many benefits of working as a team with the CMGC on board. The savings that we found and selected didn't affect program or student experience. Working with the CMGC, the means and methods of construction were further investigated, and some examples of savings included eliminating the need for some expensive temporary shoring walls that were originally planned. That resulted in approximately $900,000 in savings. We've had some structural savings of about $600,000 by reevaluating the structure, some refinement on the HVAC that saved us a couple $100,000. We've saved approximately $1 million in the reduction of site retaining walls. We've changed the finished floor elevation of the building, which eliminated a lot of dirt haul off, which is very costly. And we continue to look at those types of savings. We're going to continue to look at those going forward. Potential savings may evolve as we get into more details in design development. So that's our budget update. The site and building plans remain essentially the same as what you were shown before. So once again, thank you very much for this chance to provide an update.
It's really great news. I just have a quick question about the green tech Energy tech, 1.5%. I know that it's included in the above number, but what does that encompass?
Yeah, so we will be putting, do you want to answer this one, Steffi or Becca? They're both here from Bora and they might be able to answer that a little bit better than me.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Steffi.
Sure. The Green Energy Technology Fund is one of those things that can be used for a lot of different things. So we're gonna max out how many PV panels we can put, but there's it's a fairly compact building. So once we do that, then the next step is to use those funds for making the building envelope better and improving the mechanical system. Some of those things are things that are part of what we've been already working on. So we are in the process of doing an analysis of trying to make sure that we understand how many of our funds are actually going above and beyond just straight code that can be applied to that GET. And our goal is to have the remainder of the GET within the project budget and the work that we're doing because PPS standards already go above and beyond. Did I miss anything, Donna?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So for the Wells plan will go to the board for a vote in November because we have two things to still kind of close the loop on that is the relocation of the farmer's market and the trail cut through, is that right?
Yes. Well, yes, I was gonna,
It's the pool.
and the pool.
The pool.
It's the pool, it's
What
not the
is it with
trail.
the pool?
It's
I remember, I saw that email, I was like.
just
what?
working through coordination with Parks and Rec on when the pool is going to be able to stay, how long it will be able to stay open during the summers that the modernization is on. So we're looking at a phased approach to understand what summers it would have to close and what summers it could remain open. We're still in the planning phase of that and working with Parks and Recreations in that. And so we need to kind of solve those two issues for the community and with the community before we move that forward.
Okay, we're still tracking for November for, okay,
Yes.
great.
Who's the project manager for the pool?
Question is, the considerations for the farmer's market and the pool, et cetera, are they potentially causing delays in the IDP Wells plans process?
Not currently, really, there could be cost impact depending on what the ultimate decision will be to both of those items, logistically from our CMGC. However, we're still working through that, but we are moving the design forward on the project, and so no, from a delay perspective, it is not causing a delay in the project.
I just want to share my sentiment. I think our number one priority is to our students.
Yes.
And I know, I understand, I'm sympathetic to farmer's market, but if it's going to increase costs, I think that needs to be a serious discussion. So.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
that, thank you.
Conference.
But that's from 2 board members, so.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Not the majority of the board. We don't
not
know
the
yet.
majority, that's true.
Well, we don't know yet, so.
Yes, yeah.
Any questions? Okay. Work orders, and we have our Senior Director of Operations, Frank Levitt, who will lead us through this conversation.
All right, thank you, everyone. Just so you know, I'm filling in for Tom Ockers, who's out, so we'll get through this. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the maintenance operations, our work order prioritization, the work order numbers that we have, and how we're moving forward. I think it's important for the team to understand our scope of who's responsible for what and how that kind of moves out from the site. So we start with the custodians and our senior. Yeah, let's move forward. We start with our PPS facilities, our custodians who are on the site base. They are first line of defense. They're the ones that are seeing what the issues are. They work directly with their senior facilities operations managers to help report the issues, and they triage what they can on site. The next from there is our maintenance department, our technicians, who those are general fund work orders. That's all that we do. We fix and repair and do preventative maintenance on the items that we have currently. Then from those items, things that are beyond our scope or what our team can handle with the resources that we have internally, we will kick those projects to Joanna's team which is partly general fund and capital projects. And then from there, it's the Office of School Modernization that's dealing with our bond projects. So hopefully this gives everyone a little bit of scope of who does what and how that moves out from there. So the next slide, to give you all a bit of an overview, the maintenance department has 77 technicians from multiple trades. Those again include our plumbers, HVAC folks, grounds, flooring, machinists, sheet metal. All of these folks are responsible for maintaining and repairing 9.5 million square feet of building and all of those components. To support them, we have 2 technician managers that oversee building structure and other pieces, and then we have one project manager that helps as well. To put that all in perspective, if you think about a 2,000 square foot average home, we're responsible for 5,000 2,000 square foot homes. It's not a family of 4 that's in there. It's typically 1 adult and 25 kids under the age of 18 in most cases. So it's a lot. And if you look at what we have staffed in our FTE, for example, we have 4 service plumbers to manage 5,000, 2,000 square foot homes. So you can see the monumental task that our team deals with every single day of trying to just stay afloat. All right. This just gives you a map of that 9.5 million square feet in our service area, where our technicians are all coming from here in this main building and going out every day to try and address and triage all of the problems that we have on a daily basis. So the impact of our personnel, we're approximately 40% like-sized school district standards, and we have no additional FTE allotted. So the 77 that we have are the 77 that we will have moving forward. We currently have 1 vacant position that we're recruiting for that is a plumber. So our work order numbers, we have approximately 3,900 active work orders that are sitting in our system that those 77 technicians are trying to get through every single day. That includes corrective maintenance that we have to do and also the preventative maintenance to keep the pieces of equipment that we have functioning so that we don't have catastrophic failures. These are all general numbers approximately. Of that 3,900, we have about 1,600 that are mechanical and plumbing issues. 1,400 that are general repairs, and for those that don't know, the general repairs fall into windows, flooring, roofing, keys, painting, carpentry work. Those fall in there. We have 520 landscape work orders, just so we know there's 9 landscapers for almost 900 acres of grounds at Portland Public Schools. And then we currently have approximately 370 electrical work orders, and those comprise electricians that we have of 9 and 9 low voltage technicians that work on alarms and things like that. To give you an idea of what our priority matrix is, we have emergency, high, medium, and low. Emergency or immediate threat to safety, health, and building operations. We address those the same day. Oftentimes our techs are going out and they're triaging, and they are going to continue to address the situation so that we can stabilize what the problem is and then continue to make the repairs. We have the high priority, which are impact safety and structural delivery, not addressed soon. So no one's in imminent danger. And medium are important, but it doesn't immediately threaten safety or instruction in the classroom. And then our low are cosmetic or the wants, the honey-do lists. We've got a lot of those, and unfortunately, those just get put to the bottom of the list until we can get to them. Then we also have our priority matrix that's available on the dashboard on the maintenance webpage. This gives our customers, our school staff and families an opportunity to see when we have an emergency or life safety emergencies or situational emergencies, we're addressing them those same days. And then it gives everyone an idea of what a high is and how we can get to that, how soon we can get to that between 3 and 5 days. Medium, you can see the numbers start to grow pretty exponentially based on the number of work orders that we have and the technicians that we have to address those. And I just want everyone to know, so how are we going to move forward? We are really looking at optimizing our employee shifts on how we can get those 77 technicians into our sites and address the problems and the maintenance work order issues that we have without disrupting student instruction. Obviously, we can't go into classrooms while students are there. So it's problematic. We've got kids from about 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. And so trying to get in there to get that work done is difficult, but we're coming up with creative ideas on how we can schedule our workforce and work with our labor partners to make sure that we can get in there and get that work done. We're also currently doing a remote operations center with one of our vendors to actively monitor the building mechanical system so that we can respond quicker. So that they can see what's happening in real time and address it before it becomes a much larger issue. And that's, I believe, what we have for you.
That was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone
I have a couple of questions. First, this is way more about the operations and work orders than I ever would have wanted to know. And I'm not sure who requested it, but it's a lot. And as board members, we don't usually get down into the weeds at this level of detail. I also appreciate knowing what's going on. And my question is there a double shift for some of those? Because I've done projects where you had the crew start at 4 o'clock for a 9 to 5 job, like in a occupied insurance company or whatever. You have everybody leave a couple hours early, have crew start early. So if it's 8 to 3, those are like our typical working hours. Do you have a 3 to 11?
Yeah, so we've had a 6 to 2:30 for many, many years, 6 a.m. to 2:30. We've recently this year instituted a swing shift that typically starts about 1 o'clock and goes until 9. That's a big change for that workforce. So we voluntold some folks that we're going to take those shifts. And as we're recruiting for vacant positions, we are recruiting to staff that swing shift so that folks can get into the buildings. We're also addressing safety issues too of technicians working alone, oftentimes in buildings that don't have staff and students in them. So we really want to make sure that we're putting our technicians and our employees in safe environments. So we're working through that. It's been a trial period and we continue to tweak the process.
I did the math on the number of work orders versus the employees, and if everybody was equally trained, it would be about 51 projects to do per person, but that number goes higher when you break it down by who's trained, like for mechanical versus electrical versus landscape. So it sounds like there's a lot to take care of.
Yeah.
And we're not going to fix it today, probably. All of our facilities issues probably aren't going to get addressed today, but appreciate the presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just a small thing, but those low level items that are marked as indefinite, do they ever get gotten to?
They do. What we try to do, especially in the summertime, we're able to address those more during breaks when there are no students and minimal staff in the buildings. So we work really closely with our senior facilities operations managers and principals as we head into summer to take all the work orders for the site and then try and address those honeydews. And work. We've had teams in the past where we've sent multiple crafts together so that they can knock out as many as they can at one site at one time. So we do eventually get to them. Unfortunately, we don't get to them as quickly as some people would like us to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this is great. Thank you so much. And I'm the one that requested it, and I am going to explain why. Because it shows the massive scope of work that you're dealing with and how understaffed you are. And during the strike, we consistently heard from our educators that there are things that we are having trouble getting to, like mold issues, like rats, like the whole, well, I'm gonna get to that because it doesn't fall under this. That's part of the whole, which is why I wanted to talk about it. One of my points is when we're talking about funding with our legislators, this never gets talked about. And it's a massive amount of money. And you're working with a skeleton crew and doing the absolute best you can with what you have. That is obvious. And I really appreciate it. And I'm wondering, a couple of my questions are when there are issues, like, so when I look at and I'm just trying to understand, so when we look at the prioritization, like something like mold, like where does that even fall? Like in something that it's not necessarily, some would say it's an immediate risk, some might put it off. Like these are just, I'm just curious, like where does, do those things sit out there because we can't get to them?
Right. So when those are reported into us, we work with our environmental health and safety crew. We don't address the mold issues. We work with our outside contractors to come in and do any remediation. So our internal staff, we just do not have the capacity to deal with those issues. But we rely on our frontline building to let us know where they are. And of course, when that comes up, we bring in our environmental health and safety team to go out and assess the situation.
So yeah, so when we see the prioritization, I find that very helpful. Like we're having conversations, during bargaining, during the legislative session, be able to say, we can't get to these incredibly important things because we do not have the money. So it's just going to sit here forever unless we see an increase in funding. So I think it's really important to have your work as part of this conversation. So, and talking about HVAC issues, I was talking about this before, they're not even gonna show up here because there are improvements, like in terms of air conditioning. Air conditioning, because most of our schools don't have air conditioning, so this won't even show up as something that is truly missing.
Might if it's a Roosevelt that has HVAC, but it's not functioning.
Right, but for schools that
Wouldn't
don't.
it be under the?
So do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it's sort of,
no, I
so
do
the
understand
so the problem is what I'm saying, it's even bigger than this. Because they're not things that we have, but it doesn't follow here. So I feel like I'm hoping to sort of show like where I'm hoping we can go with this as a committee to help with some of the funding issues that we're struggling with.
So this might not.
I have a question about, so HVAC, wouldn't that be, so boiler failure, but I don't see the cooling, like the mechanical, it's not listed as an emergency, or it's not showing up on this matrix. Is that what you're saying? And the heating,
Because the boilers exist, but if you have like the older elementaries that don't have AC,
right,
it's sort of like.
It's not gonna show up on here
Right.
because it's not called in as a work order.
Exactly.
And so we also have to prioritize when we get a call that there's a cold room versus I have an entire building that doesn't have heat.
Right.
We
That
have to
makes
start,
sense.
and that happens every single day.
Right.
And that's a tough call when you have to let the school know, I understand that you have a classroom or two that is cold. We have an entire school that has no heat. We have to then devote our minimal resources to try and get that entire building back up. And then of course, we're also taking into consideration, is it kindergarten? Is it, first grade, second grade, special needs, high risk kids? We really want to make sure that we address those first. And then we start working backwards to get to the 1-2 different classroom situations.
Is there a deferred maintenance like price tag? Like, can you say we have this much money's worth of deferred maintenance?
I
did it a while ago.
I believe it was like 1.9 billion.
Like 9.
Oh, God.
It's right during the bond conversations.
Yeah.
It's a B.
B.
It's helpful for.
Yes, because I feel like we're just not talking about it. Because there's such a reliance on the bonds, but then we don't even have enough money to address our regular maintenance. You're telling us 40% below your staffing, like we need to get you to 100% so that we can just keep doing damage control. So that is why I asked. And so it really value the work that all of you are doing. Appreciate it. Shine a light on this part.
Great, thank you.
Well, I remember 10 years ago, maintenance staff, the technicians were like, there was 90-ish technicians, and that was considered skeleton. And only 2 managers. And one of the feedback I got from meeting with one of the unions, like SEIU with custodials, is that they're wishing for more managers. And I just want to highlight the impact that you're also highlighting is that years and years after cuts, we want to preserve student-facing positions that, everyone does. But it also comes at a cost in terms of our deferred maintenance just keeps growing and growing. And to get at 100% just keeps it the same, not really knocks it down. And so
I'd love to eventually get to that, sometime in the next month or two, what would the number associated with you being staffed at 100% look like? Because to your point, I've heard stories too, as we're paint stuff years ago, that PPS had 80 painters on staff. That sounds about right. 2.
Yeah, we used to have over 300 maintenance staff.
It's crazy.
77 now. I mean, it's not, no one should be shocked that we're not able to keep up.
But it's absolutely, I just think it's really important, like I said, to start assigning some numbers and some, people need to understand this is an emergency. So, there you go, that's my spiel.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I also just want to remind folks, if you have follow-up questions, be sure and send those in to us so we can visit with them. Our time is short and we don't always have enough time to take the leads on every single issue that we are interested in. We are ready to answer.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so our last topic before we get into the verbal updates is seismic. And I do want to just put out there that this is an opportunity for engagement. There's nothing in when we're talking about a framework for prioritization. I know it was mentioned public comment around meetings and those types of things. It's good to get things out there so that we can hear some feedback. So we're going to use this again as an opportunity, which we said we would, using FIO as an opportunity to get engagement, things that we're thinking about. So what we're going to talk about is the framework for prioritization. Also talk about just a reminder of the scenarios that we visited at the September board meeting, and just remind you what I think I heard in that meeting, and just to get clarity in terms of our steps moving forward. And then an update in terms of deliverables, not only moving forward in October, November, and kind of a sense of timeline moving forward. So before I turn it over to Robert, I just want to, and I shared this in September, so this is just gives you an idea of through the 2012 and 17 20 bonds, the work that we have completed thus far in regards to seismic, right? And obviously, there's much work still to be done, not only with what we decide in the 2025 bond, but work moving forward. And as you can see here, obviously with the full seismic retrofits that comes along with the new buildings. But then we've really worked with the partial and roof level seismic, when we're looking to redo a roof, we take a look and see if we could do seismic improvements as well. And that's where you can see just a host of schools where we've done partial and roof level seismic. So we have Robert, who's going to lead us in this next conversation.
Thank you, John. Reintroduce myself. I'm Robert Joel. I'm a senior project manager for OSM on the Consolidated group. Consolidated, for those of you that do not know, we do everything that is not modernization. We've done the HVAC, we've done fire alarms, we've done roofing, we've done seismic, we did the ADA SPED, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we are fairly comprehensive in what we do within our group. I just want to briefly talk about our attempts and what we are working on. As far as establishing reporting, currently we do report to Oregon Biz on a quarterly basis. Oregon Biz is the one that provides us with our seismic grant as we get it. We do, as I say, we report quarterly, and we also report to the BAC. It's been every 6 months as far as doing the seismic. We'll probably end up increasing that. And we are, of course, working as to expand our reporting to everyone in the public. And the prioritization formula, this is what we have come up with to date. This is just to give you an idea of some of the factors that we are looking at when it comes to determining what sites will be prioritized. We are trying to get this pinned down so we can provide a recommendation to the board and leadership towards the end of the month. And we need that for multiple reasons. And again, the dashboard prototype engagement sessions, we are working on getting that formulated. Next, please, John. As I just mentioned, we're establishing school priority, working really diligently with that. Tom Odgers and myself and Jennifer from Holmes Engineering, we're working together to try to get that dialed in. Unfortunately, Tom couldn't be here this evening as previously stated. And Frank took my fire when he said I'm filling in for Tom. And as far as securing the outside grant reports, we have gone ahead and contracted with Jennifer to start the grant application. She's all ready to go. It is about an 8 to 10 week application period. Our applications have to be submitted to Oregon Biz by the 23rd of January. 23rd of January, so 10 weeks from now is roughly November 15th. We will need to have a site selected by that time so we know what we're going for. And whether we get, the intent, of course, is to get a grant every year. And we can apply for more than one grant in a year, which is good. And you can also apply consistently. So we're applying for one grant, and later in the year, probably early next fall, we'll start applying for another grant. We're trying to get things set up so we have two major sites beginning 2027. Just trying to get everything designed and set up and ready to go before, so we can start something major in the summer. Just we can't see that happening, unfortunately. And I've been working with architect firms and structural, really counting on Jennifer a lot. She's been very helpful, just to get our timelines dialed in. Our intent, as you can see, the next thing is land procurement for design services. We have an RFP out for a single site. It's out. I think it's due next week is what it is. We're going to try to get one site under contract and get it designed in. We also have another RFP going out for back to the approach C, which is what we had talked about, which is a conglomeration of types A, which is a full building, and a type B, which is parts. So we're looking for a group of architects to do some of those. And the intent is we can possibly get some of those designed. If we doing parts, we can get some of those designed to pick up over the summer of 2026. Additionally, we are on our existing roofing projects, we've added in seismic functions that we can do within the time frame that we have. And those sites are Chavez, Marshall, Woodmere, and thank you. So we are able to pick up some of our quote unquote parts that we have identified in the report from Holmes. Revisiting the dashboard prototype and community engagement, we're working on getting that all together for y'all. Next slide, please. This is just a sample priority that we had talked about, came up earlier. This is just an idea. This is what, again, some of what we have to think about. The facility condition is big. The right sizing is big. We don't want to go into a school and spend millions of dollars just to have it be right sized. And we are taking into consideration other work that needs to be done. That's part of the facility coordination and conditioning. We do have to take effect into the grade level simply because the younger kids aren't as cognizant as to how to escape from a building. We have to look at that. And then TSI and CSA, of course, we take those into consideration too. Next, please. And as I mentioned, we are working towards the hybrid. That is what we understood at the board meeting that the board is wishing that we would pursue. And again, I do have an RFP going out. It's actually in John's court to approve so we can get it out to the street. Actually, it's in Tom's court, but since Tom's not here, I'm blaming John. We're ready to go, and we're pushing hard.
Yes, and just a reminder what the hybrid is. Obviously, it's a mix of complete retrofits for some schools, but then part of the the assessment from Holmes, they which was great. They did risk assessments for every school, especially those high-level risk parts. And so if we incorporate the hybrid approach, it allows us to hit those high-risk parts in more schools, which will then lower our district risk score, right? And I think, per the bond, it's $1 billion, right? And so, and this would also allow us to access the grant using this as well. So,
May I ask, what are the grants from Oregon Biz? What are the?
Yeah, it's called the Oregon Rehabilitation Grant Program.
What department?
It's through Oregon Biz, yeah.
Oregon Biz.
I thought it was Biz Oregon.
Biz Oregon.
Oh, Biz Oregon, yeah, okay.
It's SRGP, so Seismic Rehabilitation Grant Program. So if you Google SRGP Oregon, it'll pop up. And you get up to $2.5 million towards one project, but you have to seismically retrofit that entire building.
The entire site, yeah.
You can't
use that
retrofit.
around, okay.
You can retrofit one building on a campus, but it has to be seismically separate, independent from other buildings. So that's the caveat to the grant.
Okay, John just explained the ABC approach to find. We have equity and risk filters as we've been looking at what we need to look at for our criteria for selection. Prioritization, again, we're working on that priority. Tom would offer more information here, but as we know, Tom's not here. He's got a draft put together so we can make selections and present. The technical report was delivered by Holmes and presented at the 9/9 board meeting. Integration, we have been working with maintenance, and the mods and facilities, trying to make sure that we cover the bases we can. We've been looking towards mechanical, tying it in with roofing, doing as much as we can as a site at one time, so we're not going in and going in and going in. It's very impactful for us to go into a site. And we work very diligently trying to avoid impacts, but it doesn't always happen. We've been very fortunate that the administrators we work with, very pliable, they recognize that we're working hard trying to make their building safer. And then our next steps will be the approval of the prioritization, it's a tough one for me, list and scope for the first round of projects. Any questions?
Did you have any other questions?
No, I don't.
Mine has to do with right sizing, so I'll wait until we get the report.
I said a couple of questions to just make sure I'm hearing. So it sounds like you have, correct me if I'm wrong, I was jotting answer. You have RFPs out for, like, the plan is for 2 major sites in the summer of 2027 because it's just impossible to.
It's highly unlikely, I won't say it's impossible, it's highly unlikely that we'd be able to pull it off. We have a single RFP out just to get going.
Right.
So we have something that we can put the address for the grant, and then we have a second RFP out, which will go out the next day or so.
I see what you're saying. So those 2 major sites, we need the grants for those because they have to be full buildings. Because
Yep.
that's part of the plan of the grant. Okay,
Yep.
got it. And then for summer 2026, Chavez, Marshall, Woodmere, Vestal, smaller like parts related. Is that just roofing, or are you thinking like you're going in and doing some of the parts that are in the homes?
For instance, at Woodmere, we have some openings, egress that are not seismically sound. So we're going to address those at the time. Chavez, we're going a little deeper than what we were gonna do. We were just gonna do tie-ins at the roof level. We are going a little bit deeper. I can't recall what that is, Jennifer.
Yeah, some additional connections. And at Vestal, for example, there are a few load-bearing URM walls, so those are getting addressed during the re-roof project. So we're trying to expand that scope to address some of these low-hanging fruit that are high seismic risk at those 2 sites.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So that concludes the presentations. And so we just have some verbal updates for if you wanted to discuss any questions that you may have. So the right sizing conversation, I know that's a big topic. This is the TLE, the Teaching, Learning, Enrollment Committee in November. That's going to be a topic of conversation, including proposed timelines. Obviously, we're working through some things to Jefferson's assignment. And that's up to that piece as well, but we can get a little bit more concrete with you and get some feedback from you in regards to the timeline for the right sizing conversation. And that is something that we want to do very well. And I think one of the big pieces too is that we just went through the whole SCGC process. And I will say that it would be not smart of us if we didn't do a lessons learned from the SCGC.
Agreed.
And so,
That's my question.
yes, and so I want you to know that's one of the things that we are going to be doing right now this fall.
Excellent.
Is doing a lessons learned from SCGC.
I have a lot of lessons to share.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know.
Yeah, Eddie's still scarred from that whole situation. I would hope that the lessons learned, I know it's staff work and not for the board, but I'm really interested in, I always do that on every project. When something's done, we talk about what we learned, what we could have done better, every single thing I do. And so I'm hoping we have some insight, because I have some strong thoughts about Southeast Guiding Coalition and how we ended up where we ended up. Who we listened to, who we didn't listen to.
DBRAC, yeah.
Equity. So if you could just share that, I don't have to be involved in it, I don't want to control everything, but I'd like to hear and be curious to hear or read a memo even.
Okay.
On what you learned, what you do differently.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. And you mentioned DBRAC. You guys have been around.
I think I pushed. There's a northeast.
Yes.
Was also people still have scores.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Is I don't think I could be wrong. I mean, this one, but I don't think that lessons learned piece was done through even with DBRAC.
I don't think so either.
So I really do want to do that, and of course then apply those learnings to whatever our process is. So I don't want you to know that is happening. It's going to be happening now, right? So I don't want you to think that we're waiting on that piece, but we really need to do a lessons learned with that. In regards to an RFP, so we're going out for an RFP for the high schools, the builds. We talked about that, so that's out. And so just want to let you know if that is out. And so we are proposals. We're expecting to be due at the end of the month. We're expecting interviews to happen in mid-November and potential notice of intent to award by November 17th, around there, and then ultimately come to the board for approval in December. And so just wanted to give you an update in regards to that timeline. And then we talked a little bit about, when we talked about wells, we know that that we're getting inundated emails, as am I, in regards to, and I want you to know we take this, we know how important this piece is, so we're definitely doing some due diligence, and if we can come up with options that make sense from a safety perspective, then we're definitely going to look at those types of things, but I think at the same time, as Director Wong said, it has to make sense from a cost perspective. And so I want you to know we are also going out to meet again with some representatives from the farmers markets, with Chief Kafori and Sarah and Tom. We're going to go out and meet with them again and kind of talk through some things that were virtual. Okay, maybe we're not going out. We're going to have a virtual meeting. But to just get some ideas, more ideas, and let them know a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's important to listen. We've gotten 200 emails about moving the farmers market, and as someone that doesn't have any relationship necessarily with that part of town, I feel like I'm not qualified to solve that problem, but I'm also, because I serve on this school board, interested in what Director Wong said, the safety and if there's cost implications.
Yes.
Number one issues for me are safety and cost, especially cost.
Yeah.
Actually, especially both of them.
Yeah, I just want to clarify like my earlier stance. I would love TPS to do as much as possible to make that farmers market, continue possible. But I do think that if it's going to potentially cause delays, as we know, delays cost money in the long run, right? It may not cost money now, but as things get tighter and tighter, prices go up and up, and that money is bond money that the voters approve, and we as a board are responsible to oversee. So if it costs more money, it needs to come before the board, because that money we're responsible for overseeing and making sure that goes towards what our voters approved it for. So that's the whole reason why I brought that up. But again, if we can do stuff that's not going to cost any money or very minimal, then 100% for it.
Is there, I don't know that community very well. I know that there's a Hillsdale, there's a shopping mart and a library branch. Is there any way to partner with the other local, not me living in Northeast Portland, but the local businesses to come up with a solution?
We're doing
I
that.
think that's what
Of course you are.
conversation is.
Remember, Greg Roach from Paloma. Yeah. We met with them, we're looking at their every,
Okay.
we're working with parks, we're working with PVOT, we're working.
Everybody.
We're like casting a wide, not too wide.
Their business association?
Everyone.
Everyone.
We name it, we mean it.
Everyone, okay, got it, I appreciate that.
And I think the big thing to realize is that we're working it. No decision has been made, and I think that's what
Yes,
I
thank
wanna
you.
make sure the community knows that. No decision has been made, we hear you and we're working it. We're trying to work it with you, and so we just wanna make sure that is communicated.
Trying to solve the problem.
That's right.
Great.
I appreciate calling it out because we have received, hundreds of emails. We got another one with like another 400 signatures. Like it's obvious like this is extremely important to this community. And in terms of cost, the way I look at it, and I assume that would be associated some sort of cost if we had to relocate it, that would be the cost. And for me, I do look at that as sort of similar to like relocating students. Those costs are generally part of the construction budget if we're going to be displacing something like that. And one of the things that really struck me in a lot of the feedback that we received was the impact on small business owners that really survive on that market. So there's that impact too. So I appreciate that we're really keeping an eye on this and understanding that it really, the impact that it has is significant. I did need to ask about one other item. It might just be a little bit of sharing for me. I think it was in the previous version, it's not in here, it was about Pal Park. That I have been reaching out to the city and they're working on connections, but I'm definitely I've reached out to the Turk Pal Park folks who are, I think I saw over there about actually if we need to start showing up at city council meetings and giving public comment to get someone's attention, the fact that we need to start, this is low hanging fruit that's taking too long, just get a conversation going with them. So I just want to call that out, that is definitely on my mind. I don't know if you've had any luck.
We've had
I feel the same way, I'm like,
millimeter
right here.
is smaller than a centimeter, let me go back to 5th grade, that's about average.
Okay.
But I do definitely agree that, any comments that the city folks hear from community, not from the community would be really helpful in moving forward.
Sure.
Right now?
Yeah, go for it. Oh, no, I know Stephanie is online. I was gonna, she had something she wanted to talk about for, future agenda topics, but,
Okay, perfect segue. This is something I want to suggest to you. I was going to suggest to you yesterday when we chatted, but you distracted me with some interesting topics and I totally forgot. I talked with Director Chase Miller as well. One thing that we did as a board from our carryover committees with policy and with audit is that the last 10 minutes of the agenda is always like future topics for discussion. It's even more important this year because they got more stringent about meeting laws, so it's very difficult to even talk to committee members. So my recommendation is that on the agenda, we just add, that everybody adds 10 Beautiful. I didn't see it online, so that's why. That way it gives a chance for your committee members to talk about what they want. Yeah.
Good idea.
Well,
And it's more important, again, like this year, because the meeting laws have gotten more stringent and it's way more difficult.
is that also the time to, all of our committees have 3 members, so in order to move something forward, do there need to be 2 members that want something on the agenda, or are we gonna just let individual members add?
I mean,
I mean,
well, you're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean,
I'm curious.
obviously the chair has the say, the final say, but also remember that, I mean, this is what I do as a chair of the board. The chair is supposed to discover the will of the board, or at least try to enact the will of the board.
Mhm.
You know, obviously with, this is why I appointed you chair, to give you kind of your license over how to get things done. But yeah, it's a balance, right? And so I think the role of the chair is to carry out the will of the board, and the role of the committee chair is to carry out the role of the committee. The reason I suggest it be at the end is so that we can let these wonderful people who don't want to hear us talk anymore go home 10-15 minutes earlier. And that's why, yeah. And so that's my recommendation. Something to chew on. But it looks like you already decided, so I'm done here.
Can we let Stephanie, Steph, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Hi.
Hi.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Dr. Engelsman, excuse me.
Hi, hopefully everybody can hear me. My headphones have not been super reliable, and I'm also at the East Portland Community Center where my kids have swim team, and I'm the responsible carpool driver for 7 kids on Wednesdays. So I will be brief because the kids are showering right now, but I joined today because I have an idea that I frankly raised quite a few times with different people along the campaign trail, and hearing today's updates about just how many work orders there are, and that indefinitely when we will get to them, has me thinking about what I sort of want to call like a community lift idea. And obviously I'm not talking about the emergency or the very high urgent needs. Those need to be taken care of by the PPS staff, the people who are trained, and the people who are doing this. But here's what I would love to have on a future agenda. And I'm seeing one kid come out, so I have very little time. I would love to have a conversation about engaging the community in those low-hanging fruits, the honeydews, where I'm looking at you banks, credit unions, and big banks in the city. I'm looking at you law firms. I know a lot of you because I'm a lawyer, big and small law firms. I'm looking at small business owners and thinking, could you, and you business owners, banks, law firms, work with PPS to go through the honeydews, the low-hanging fruits, and find a chore, find a need that you might want to take on district-wide. So we're not looking, it's not sitting with a school that has the lawyers as the parents. We're taking on a need that is district-wide, and maybe it's, yes, I own a small business, I am a fence builder, and I would love to take on the holes in the fences around the district, and that is something I will work with PPS on to get done, and I will check that off that giant 3,900 list to get it done. And I think that when we start realizing that our schools are more than just places where students go, that the banks, the law firms, the coffee shops, all of them share our community with these buildings, and all of us are going to benefit if the kids who come out of these buildings are as equipped to be great humans and educated humans as possible. And so if we can start chipping away with this community lift idea and having the community, not just the parents, not just the educators, but our community picking up some of the pieces so that this skeletal maintenance crew doesn't have to, and that they can focus on the really important things that also need to get done on a day-to-day and week-by-week basis. So I know now is not the time for it, but that is my pitch. I don't know where it would land or if anyone else is interested in having that conversation, but I think this Portland community, we're wonderful. Everybody wants to help, so let's do it.
I love it. Thanks, Steph. I think it's a great idea, and I'm just, as you were talking, I'm like, okay, how it's get to what that list looks like. And I think collaborating with you, Frank, like, you know what's out there, you were gonna pick, you know, some buckets that, you know, the community could adopt per se, what would those be? Is it like painting or, I don't know, I'm just like, you know, guessing. What are those things that the community could rally around, that we could be organized about? So just something to.
Frank, do you want to talk?
He's like, I got a honey-do list.
I got a honey-do list,
I
Sarah.
want to talk about Community Cares Day. That's a.
I was
I know
gonna
about
just
that.
say,
Mhm.
Community Cares Day.
I mean, that's definitely at one point in time, right?
Exactly.
I see it thinking of the ongoing piece. And we typically focus Community Care Day on the outside, just,
Yeah.
you know, to get people that are in. It is very impactful, but please, everyone understand how much we appreciate the community coming in and help. But yeah, I'm definitely taking notes. I think it's a great idea. Adopt a school.
A task,
Mhm.
so that all of our schools are included, so, yeah.
Cleveland girls soccer game at 7.
I
got two.
Great.
Okay. I think, do you guys have anything else? I think that's it for.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, well, our next meeting of the Facilities and Oversight Committee is November 3rd, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for.